When you read the news, sometimes you get the impression that Canadians are the unhappiest and unluckiest people in the world.
For the first time, we're really seeing folks at median income or 120% of median income not being able to enter the rental market. It is overwhelming. It's hard not to get disheartened about it.
More stress and anxiety and are feeling less good about their living circumstances.
78% of people say high gas prices have them fuming.
When one person is unhappy, that's an individual problem. But when the entire population is unhappy, it's now no longer an individual problem, but rather a structural problem.
Everything from inflation, debt, traffic, and the government is making Canadians miserable. But how happy or unhappy are Canadians really? And are we really unhappier than the rest of the world? The reality is that Canadians' happiness levels have declined over the years. According to the latest World Happiness Report, which assesses the happiness levels of people in 150 countries, Canadians slipped down the rankings from 13 to 15. This still puts Canada pretty much ahead of the other 135 countries, even ahead of the US. But still, a decline is a decline. Even if you had $200,000 in your account, you're still going to be bummed knowing that a year before you had $250,000. So why this decline and what has gone wrong? The report also highlights that younger Canadians, particularly those under 30, are significantly less happy compared to boomers and older generations. So the next time you meet your parents or grandparents, you might confirm these findings for yourself. Now let's take a closer look at what's happening, and perhaps some of these facts might reshape your view of the kind of country Canada is, or even your own happiness. So which are the 10 happiest countries? At the top, we have the Nordic countries of Finland, Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden, followed by Israel, surprisingly, the Netherlands, Norway, Luxembourg, Switzerland, and Australia. Canada is in the next 10, together with countries like Kuwait, Belgium, and British people watching might be surprised, the UK. And depending on your own level of happiness, you might be surprised to hear that Canadians rank 15 out of 150 countries, which puts them in the 90th percentile. In other words, Canadians are more happy than 90% of people in other countries. France is ranked 27, Brazil 44, Greece 64, Indonesia, a country where people smile a lot, 80, which just shows that outward expressions of emotions don't always mirror inner experiences. Nepal, South Asia's happiest country, at 93. Turkey at 98, and then India and most African countries rank 100 or lower on the happiness scale. So you could say that overall, Canada is a very happy nation. Now let me know in the comments below if you agree with the sentiments or if you're experiencing some dissonance here. Now, even if you think that the poll results don't make sense and that the ranking should be much lower, proven not least by all the immigrants who have left Canada recently, let's look at some factors why Canadians might be genuinely happy in this country. According to a study by Angus Reid, these are some of the things that make Canadians happy: their relationships with friends and family, and their overall quality of life. They are satisfied with their leisure time, and their love life is not too bad. It seems that Canadians know how to cherish the non-material aspects of their lives. On top of that, the Canadian landscape is breathtakingly beautiful. The air is objectively better than in most parts of the world, and friendly encounters with friendly Canadians are the norm. However, stress levels could be better, and when it comes to evaluating their finances, Canadians are on the brink. And this last bit, troubling finances, of course fueled by the deteriorating economy, is what has likely shoved Canada down the happiness rankings. Now, happiness is an elusive concept and even harder to measure. The World Happiness Report measures happiness or subjective well-being based on these 3 factors. Life evaluations, from 10 being the best life to 0 the worst. By the way, what rating would you give your life at the moment? Let me know in the comments down below. They also measure positive emotions based on people's responses to questions about how much they laughed, enjoyed life, and their interests. And also negative emotions, which measures people's level of worry, sadness, and anger. And these in turn are influenced by a variety of factors, including the age of the person, employment or non-employment, health, what's going on in the world and society, violence, the past and after effects of the pandemic, new technologies, changing natural and social environment, the way of seeing history, feelings of social support, and loneliness. And with all these polls, there's always this problem of response bias. For example, the social desirability bias, where respondents answer in a way they perceive as socially acceptable. And not trying to poke holes in the findings, but rather in the spirit of wanting to genuinely know, are Canadians actually ranking 15 happy, or are the results in any way influenced by, let's say, by Canadian politeness that prompts them to say that they're fine when they're not? In a similar way that Germans complain about almost everything being awful when it's not. What do you think? And talking about happiness, if you've been enjoying my videos so far, it would make my day if you would subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell for future videos. Now, the second fact is that Canadians' happiness levels have declined steadily over the years. And at first you might wonder, is it really Canadians' happiness declining, or is it other nations becoming happier each year and overtaking Canada? When lining up the happiness ratings, you can easily see that Canadians' happiness evaluations have actually decreased even when compared to Canada's own best score. While Canada has scored almost 7.5 in the year 2013 and was ranked the 6th happiest country in the world, it has gone down to 7.2 in 2020 and is now at 6.9 in 2024. So why this decline? What has changed? It's easy to guess why. Inflation, that although easing has driven up prices to an all-time high, with practically no possibility of ever returning to previous levels. The housing crisis, with homes becoming increasingly more unaffordable, coupled with stagnating wages, slashing local purchasing power. Mounting federal debt combined with soaring interest rates that puts additional fiscal burden on taxpayers. Longer and longer waiting times at the doctor, specialists, and even surgery appointments. An uncontrolled high influx of immigrants aggravating the already existing problems. Then there's restricted freedom of speech, and taxes and regulations that disincentivize economic growth. The situation has escalated to a point where even Canadians' high life expectancy and positive relationships cannot compensate for these challenges. Canadians are literally losing sleep over their finances, with 1 in 2 reporting sleepless nights due to financial worries, according to the 2023 Financial Stress Index. Paychecks just don't seem to keep up with prices these days. But instead of capitulating, here's one thing that you can do. Make sure that you stash away whatever loonies or toonies, oh, these are Turkish liras actually, are left after paying for groceries and gas, and invest that money. So your money can grow and keep up with, if not outpace, inflation. And just in case investing sounds a bit intimidating to you, you can try out a simple platform like Wealthsimple, which is perfect for beginners. There is no minimum, and you can start with as little as just $50 as you learn and watch your money grow. I've stuck to Wealthsimple because there are no commission fees for trading stocks and ETFs, and because the app has such an easy-to-use interface. So if you want to try out Wealthsimple, you can use my link in the descriptions down below and get a bonus of $25 once your account is funded. But this is not the whole story. Although Canadians' happiness levels are considerably high, there's a stark divide within its own population. In many regions of the world, younger people are happier than older people. But in North America, including Canada, this is completely reversed. Looking at happiness overall between generations, Canadians born before 1965, so boomers and predecessors, are happier than those born after 1980, which are millennials and Gen Z. Happiness has fallen significantly among the young, ages 15 to 24, and they are now less happy than the old. Their life satisfaction is plummeting, and they're experiencing positive emotions less and less frequently. Young Canadians are the unhappiest young people in the G7 at ranking 58, just a bit above the US, which ranks 62, and above Japan, which ranks 73. First, what is happening in the US? But second, what is hitting Canada's youth so much harder than their fellow citizens who are a few decades older? Several things that might be at play here. Apart from the after effects of the 2008 recession and the COVID-19 pandemic, a failing healthcare system, here's what affects younger Canadians in particular: the persistent scar of job security and wage growth as these young people begin to work. After investing tons of money into education that often turns out to have limited practical value and in many cases taking on more debt than they can manage, young people initially enter the job market with hope, seeking high-paying jobs that can hopefully repay their debt and secure themselves a middle-class lifestyle. However, they soon discover that finding suitable employment has become harder and harder, and that entry-level salaries of $40,000 or even $50,000 cannot buy much in this economy, especially when it comes to housing. Gone is the dream of the detached house with a large backyard. On the other hand, many, of course not all, boomers had already secured housing at a time when it only took 3 times or so their salary to buy an average house. Or they locked in a very low rent decades ago, which reminds me of an 80-something-year-old lady in my old apartment building who rented a unit there about 3 decades ago and until this day only pays $900-something for a 1-bedroom apartment. But for someone who is just entering the rental market in 2024, things look completely different. Lastly, the negative effects of smartphones and social media, which only aggravates the problem. A consumer culture of instant gratification and algorithms that keep their eyes glued to the screen. So now what? Putting things back into perspective, Canada has proven that it was once a country where people could be very, very happy, even young people. How to bring back those times? How to save what can be saved, or at least not become an unhappier nation? What do you think? And how happy are you living here in Canada compared to your experience of visiting other countries? Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon in the next one.